Welcome one and all to another edition of A History of Caged Violence, the web series that shines a light on the dark days of MMA. I'm your host, the J-Shot, with you once again to simultaneously break down and rip up one of the first mixed martial arts events ever. We're rolling right through to the 4th Ultimate Fighting Championship. Yes, it's UFC 4, dubbed Revenge of the Warriors. Pretty badass title, right? Things might just be looking up. My high hopes are hit with a dose of reality when this is the song chosen to set the tone. Maybe I should give them a break, as this took place 9 days before Christmas 1994, but at the same time, way to think long term, guys.
Hi everybody, I'm Bruce Beck.
Wait a minute, don't just gloss over the whole you being Bruce Beck thing. None of us hardcore Ultimate Fight fans have ever seen you before. But I guess we just have to go with it, despite no explanation provided on where Brian Kilmeade is and whether or not he and his poofy hair are okay. Jim Brown is back though, so that's, I don't know, something. And if we're lucky, yes, Ben Perry has been cut as well. Here we're introduced to Jeff Blatnick, a man with some legit credentials. He won gold wrestling in the 1984 Olympics. Not only that, he's pretty poised and well-spoken too. Perhaps things are looking up after all.
This is not a ring.
Oh my God. A graphic is then shown to bring us up to speed. Alternates are now required to compete in a match before being put in the final, tournament. Unfortunately, UFC 1 veteran Kevin Rozier came up short against a guy they called Joe Ghetto Man Charles. You can't hate that nickname though. The actual bracket looks like this. Beck explains UFC 1 and 2 winner Royce Gracie received the number 2 seed, while UFC 3 winner Steve Jenham earned the top seed by winning that one fight that one time. It's simple, but hey, I'm all for the UFC having a legitimate ranking system and actually sticking to it. Definitely don't see that every day.
No biting, no eye gouging. All other blows are legal.
Not exactly no rules, but close enough. Stay tuned for more on that later. Time to meet the first fighter, Ron Van Cleef, also known as the Black Dragon. They say it's a random draw, but this man is 51 years old and Royce just happens to get him in the first round? I don't know. Beck says his competition wins span 4 decades, which is a nice notch on the belt, but it also makes it pretty clear he's past his prime.
Revenge of the Warriors, or is it Revenge of Gracie?
Seriously, Revenge of the Warriors is just a really dumb title for this. There's only 3 returning fighters and none of them are really seeking revenge. Hackney dummied a giant and withdrew. Gracie was pushed to the limit by chemo, but it's not like they're having a rematch. And Steve Jenham won the damn thing. To be fair though, Pleasant Return of the Warriors doesn't sound as catchy. They decided against adding the nickname the G-Man to Rich Goins' title this time. Between that and the credible commentators, it's clear they're really going for a more legitimate and respectable sport feel. Mostly. Van Cleef gets the record for oldest fighter to step in the octagon and makes a solid case to be considered the best dressed too. Hey, Black Dragon, Apollo Creed called, and yeah, he wants his shorts back, but mainly he was calling to say you fighting Royce is about as good an idea as him fighting Drago was. Hindsight's 20/20, I guess. Gracie scores a takedown immediately. Van Cleef tries to knee his way out, but just falls deeper into the Brazilian's trap. Royce uses a lot of palm strikes and even rains down some hard shots. Then less than 4 minutes in, he has no choice but to tap. Royce advances and the commentators talk about how he seems to have taken it easy on the old man. Could have fooled me.
Royce could have actually punched him in the face.
Oh, I'm sure he could.
And did not do it.
Time for the second bout. And hey, that looks just like Chemo's terrible tattoo. Oh, it is? But wait, he's not fighting? His manager is? Since when do fighters' managers fight? And who's managing him? So many questions. Truthfully, there's a lot to say about this lowlife Joe Son. Perhaps this video actually helped him secure his role as Random Task in Austin Powers, where you'd think he'd be remembered fondly for throwing a shoe. But that kind of gets swept under the rug when you go to jail for torture. I don't even want to talk about the despicable things this guy did, but while serving his sentence, he actually killed his cellmate and his chances of being a free man for a long, long time. But Joe Son isn't just a disgusting waste of DNA, he's also a giant phony too. And not just because he wasn't trained in martial arts, so he claimed to have created his own, which he called Joe Son Do. I wish I was making that up. But also because he really lays on the holier-than-thou shtick despite his involvement in heinous crimes. Let's just hope this ass gets what's coming to him. Oh hell yeah, Keith Hackney is back. Please, please, please break your hand on this guy's face and just keep swinging like you've been known to do. Joe Son isn't another 600-pounder, but at 5'4" and 236, he's pretty portly. Do us all a favor, would ya? They make a mistake listing Hackney as a kung fu practitioner, but I mean, it's not nearly as bad as taking a guy's word for it that he invented a martial art, so we'll let it slide. It isn't long before it's clear that Joe Son is actually useless. Look at this guy. Hackney almost boots his head into the first row. He then wisely clinches the karate master and gets him off his feet.
On the ground, where he can utilize Joe Son Do.
Yeah, we're all anxiously waiting to see that. Hackney holds the leg and works to get free while Joe Son tries for a guillotine, keeping him anchored with his gut. He gets up but is still fighting his way out of the headlock, and then something magical happened. He trips him and lands on top. His head's still partially held though. However, will he get free?
That is allowed in this competition. That is brutal.
He breaks out of the choke attempt, and the master of Joe Son Do decides to Joe Son Go to the showers, just tapping out once the tide starts to swing. What a coward. He'd actually go on to submit due to terror later in his pathetic MMA career, where he amassed a record of 0-4. But his true legacy in the sport will always be Hackney using his ball bag as a speed bag.
Well, I guess if you get hit to the groin about 10 times, you'll have to go out.
2 fights in, and we've been introduced to an old fart and a lying sack of shit. Where have all the tough boys gone? Okay, here we go, Milton Bowen. If the fast hands don't spell it out for you, his shirt literally does. This guy is a boxer, but don't expect him to sport a single 12-ounce on his lead hand. He's actually a bit of a pioneer of sorts. Check it out, he's the first fighter to rock the fingerless gloves in the octagon. His opponent is the air quotes defending champion, Steve Jenham. He's boring, but he can fight. And he has a good strategy against the puncher. He keeps his distance and tries a few kicks before attempting a takedown, which Bowen fights off temporarily. Jenham becomes dominant here in full mount, but Bowen never gives up. He keeps throwing punches from the bottom despite the beating he's taking. He even powers out and back to his feet, but he's out of his element and gassed. Jenham scores a nice hip toss and keeps the throttle on the ground and pound. But Bowen is no James Toney. He keeps fighting to the bitter end until Jenham transitions to an armbar and he's forced to tap. This could be the best fight yet in the UFC. Both men know they've been in a war afterwards, and Jim Brown gives a good description of what kept Bowen in the fight for so long.
Courage, determination. He has the heart of a champion, didn't want to give up.
The last fight of the first round introduces us to another Hall of Famer. It is not this guy. It's Dan Severn. He cranks out behind-the-neck pull-downs and shows off the 3 things fight fans would come to know him for: wit, charisma, and a sweet mustache.
When I step into the octagon, it's a good thing there's a 6-foot fence, because my opponent will be trying to escape.
Oh, yeah, good one. It's a clash of styles and sizes. Anthony Mad Dog Macias is a 5'10", 190-pound soaking wet striker, while grappler Severn is 6 deuce and tips the scales at 260. They couldn't be more different.
Both in the black trunks, mustache to Severn.
I guess that's one way to tell them apart. Not that it doesn't become clear pretty quick who the grappler is. The beast cinches in on the Mad Dog and suplexes him on his head repeatedly. He then finds the rear naked choke and books a spot in the semis in less than 2 minutes. Blatnick calls them textbook soufflés, which reminds me of soufflés, which makes me hungry. Hungry for more suplexes. It's a vicious cycle. So the final 4 is set, and it's pretty solid. Gracie, Hackney, Jenham, and Severn. These sharp-dressed men are excited, as are the 10-year-old kids who are allowed into a bare-knuckles, no-holds-barred fight tournament.
Well, we've received word that Steve Jenham will not continue.
Come on, now how are the Warriors supposed to get their revenge? Maybe Hackney can at least get revenge on his hair and makeup person. What kind of a flow is that? When they move face to face, their stances show a bit of a contrast. Gracie resembles a kid who's never been shown how to fight, while Hackney looks like Donkey Kong in Super Smash Bros. Hackney gets in some strikes and even stuffs a takedown or 2, but after Gracie lands some knees in the clinch, he pulls guard and starts working for a triangle. Hackney keeps active but eventually finds himself locked in an armbar with no choice but to tap. 1 more semi to go, and that'll see Severn now take on Marcus Bossett, keeping the alternate streak alive. The highlights of his fight show that it was a war, and his classic karate pose shows he's got the moves. And he can actually string a sentence together too.
And I'm fighting in the UFC to let my kids know and all the kids around the nation know that you can do anything that you want to do. All you have to do is apply yourself, get out there, and do it.
Severin looks like he's sprung a leak as him and his crazy eyes walk back to the octagon. Fun fact, that's former WWE wrestler Al Snow in his corner. You can't make that stuff up. Before Severin can get his hands on the grasshopper, Bossett lands a big kick to his midsection. He goes for another and partially lands a spin kick, but the Beast gets the takedown, and half a minute later, he gets the tap and the date with Gracie. Who isn't excited to see these two square off? I know I am, but I can admit I'm not half as pumped as this guy.
And it's time for the introduction of the fighters from Rich Go-Go Goins.
I guess he's the announcer formerly known as the G-Man. Without further ado, the final fight is upon us. The commentators debate whether or not wearing a gi is a good idea, and once again Blatnick is on point. It's so refreshing to have a commentator who isn't useless, a liar, downright ridiculous. It's been a long road to get here.
When he has the gi on and people come close, they tend to grab, and that's what he wants.
And Severin does just that, taking Gracie down and controlling the action from the top for several minutes. Blatnick talks about wrestling finally getting its due as a legitimate form of self-defense, while the crowd first puts their support behind Severin and then Gracie. Unfortunately, it's a pretty boring battle after the excitement seen earlier in the night. Severin holds Gracie in place for about 15 minutes, but the combination of Gracie's guard and Severin's lack of know-how when it comes to finishing a fight make for a bit of an anticlimactic final. Eventually, Severin learns what a triangle choke is while he's deep inside the clutches of one. He taps just before the 16-minute mark, and Jim Brown doesn't contain his excitement in seeing Gracie regain the crown.
Oh! He choked him out. He choked him out.
Talk to me.
He then wags his finger at Blatnick for touting wrestling earlier, as if dominating for the majority of the fight only to lose to a triangle choke makes wrestlers inferior. Try telling that to Chael Sonnen.
Don't you ever say that again, Jeff.
About what, Jim?
About a wrestler.
Hopefully JB and his new colleagues can kiss and make up, since the team is now easily the strongest it's been. Not that that's saying much. Even though it's for the better having Bruce Beck and Jeff Blatnick in the fold, I have to say I do miss Brian Kilmeade. Hey, wait a minute. Is that who I think it is? What the F? Another UFC is in the books, and once again Royce Gracie is victorious. But it's far from the same old, same old. A new commentary team is in place, rules surrounding alternates have been added, and people are punching each other square in the crotch. Sure, that last one is less impactful than the others, unless of course it's your crotch being punched, but it seems like they've ironed out a lot of the specifics, like whether or not low blows are allowed, come with a fine, or are banned altogether. Although it's still far from the product we see today, the UFC has definitely made some big changes in just 4 events. We'll see if that trend continues next time, so be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any episodes of A History of Caged Violence. I'm the Jay Shot, and as always, thanks for watching.